So as I jumped into the Faraway Paladin, another fall anime has premiered. Little did I know that this was a isekai anime. I went into this anime really intrigued by it, honestly, just to be 100% with you guys, because it was an isekai. I thought it was about this boy, not boy born from another world or reincarnated or sent here, just a boy born in this world, and he was born to 3 undead, and he's trying to figure out himself, and as he grows older, he begins to have questions. I don't know if the isekai premise was really needed here. I think it's there just to be there. So the story follows Will, and Will is a reincarnation of this dude who, of course, was in Japan. I just hate this part. This is the thing that it diminishes the anime for me a little bit here because it's just not done well. But he's a man who lived in Japan. He had family who died. He stayed in his... And it's sad. It is. Trust me. He stayed in his room. He was in need. He played games, and I don't know. He just died. They don't even explain why he died. He died, and he was reborn, and he thought he was reborn in hell, and he gets born to the 3 undead. The reason that I said that I don't think it was needed, it was an interesting story enough for just a boy to be born into the arms or into the hands of 3 undead people. It was unnecessary and it was unneeded to really have it be like, okay, this is a man that gets a second chance at life. Although it's appreciated, that sentiment, getting a second chance at life, they do a poor job of like explaining it. And because they do a poor job of explaining it, I feel like it's just there to be there. And it's always got to be just like, oh, this 30-year-old NEET, who never left his room, who was a piece of shit to his family, his friends, and everything else. Like, it's such an old story, and it's even worse when it's not done right. So I'm going to focus a little bit on the negative, but there is a lot of positive to the anime. But that's really my main hang up there is it's just unneeded, and like it wasn't done right. Like we didn't get a snapshot into his life before. We just get like this shadowy a figure who had long, he never upkept. He was gross and just like it's just so unneeded, and I'm kind of overseeing it over and over again, especially when it's done bad. I'll stop right there and say make sure you subscribe and make sure you guys like the video. It'll definitely help us out. Definitely subscribe if it's your first time here. The next thing as the anime goes on is, it opens up to him at like 3 years old, and then we snapshot to him back as a baby, and then we snapshot to him forward a little bit older. I would say maybe about 10 or 11 years old, somewhere around there. I would say maybe about 11 years old. He doesn't seem like he's a teenager yet, but he doesn't seem like he's a child, kind of somewhere in between. So we get those snapshots at him. And one of the things that I was saying during my reaction video, but I really felt that was a huge miss for this anime, is like the perfect isekai, the perfect retelling of child being born into the world has been jobless reincarnation. Hate it or love it, the thing that they do really, really well is they show that character, his name's Rudy, right? If you've never seen it before, but they showed the main character of that story being born. Then we get like, a good chunky meat of him being a baby, fumbling around as a baby. Then we get him as a toddler. Then we get him at about 5 years old for a couple of episodes, and then we get him aged up. I think a really strong miss here was this episode should have been him as a baby and him as a 3-year-old, and have it end at that. Then next episode we get him at like 5, and then we get him at like 8 or 9, and then on the third episode we get him at like 11, and maybe like 11 and 13. I don't know how they're gonna tell the story moving forward, but like there was a huge missed opportunity to kind of tell him and his experiences as he is growing up in this world. I feel like that would have provided value. And I think from a storytelling perspective, I think that would have been a lot better. So those are the things that I felt like I just wasn't a fan of, and I thought it could have done a lot better. Now, where I think this is doing really well in is I like just the premise, right? Regardless of being reincarnated or not, just a story of somebody being born into a world and he's being raised by 3 undead, right? And you have a ghost, you have what he calls it a mummy, but essentially like a zombie, and you have like a skeleton dude. And the reason that they're undead is they had strong ties into the world. And because of those strong ties, they were allowed to remain, but they remained undead after death. Now, what I think the anime did really good is explaining why that happened. The writer of the story was definitely a fan of like Greek mythology. You know how you have Zeus and Hermes and you have the god of war, the god of love, the god of this, the god of that. So this one it tells you that there's a lot of gods. You have God and gods, and there's different ones. You have the god of rearing children. You have the god of earth. You have the god of war, the god of love. You have different gods, god of the undead. And when somebody has these strong ties into the world that they cannot let go, they're so passionate about it, the god of the undead allows them to remain, but they remain undead. But when you do that, you betray any other god of the living, which kind of makes sense. So I like the way that they not foreshadow, but I like the way that they told that side of it. I like the way that they made like the principalities of it. I like the way that they kind of like they painted that picture for us. I really enjoyed that about it. I like that painted it for me really well of knowing kind of like what happened. So in the story you have Mary, who was like the nun type thing, but she was like, she's the zombie one. She prays continuously to the god of earth because that's what she's done her whole life. But she has betrayed the god because she remained undead. So as she prays to this god, she's punished by said god. But the god then turns around and gives her bread for Will. But she has to go through excruciating pain. The god does that because she has a, not attachment, but she has a willingness to keep on going. She has a belief to keep on believing, and she's never faltered, which I thought was really, really awesome. So I think it's just really cool. What I really like about the anime is just really cool that they're going to give us insights into, like, this one was more Mary. Next one, we're going to get more of the wizard guy or the sage. And I think we'll get the skeleton dude kind of at the end, and then he'll tell Will about everything that's going on. But in this episode, Will gets injured. He tries to save Mary from, as she was praying. Because one of the questions he had asked at 3 was like, where does this bread come from? And she never told him. She's always kept it a secret from him. But little did we know that it came from her praying. And the god of earth is the one bestowing it upon her to give to Will. And, he sees her and she's lit up in blue flames, because that's her punishment. But she can survive it because she's undead. He tries to save her. He gets injured. And he lets them know he's sorry about it, and out of curiosity, Blood, which is the skeleton dude, let him know that he'll tell him more about what he needs to know moving forward. One of the main things that I noticed was when he was talking with Blood, the skeleton dude, as he was training and stuff, they mention the other end or the others. So I'm thinking that as we move forward, like, they must be like in a dimension or a faraway island or something. There must be, like, they refer to kind of Will's people as like the others. So there must be some like legit divide between like undead, or where the undead reside, and where the living stay. And also when Will saw the world for the first time, I noticed that there was like a fallen kingdom, which is probably where they had attachments to. And who knows how long they've been undead. The one thing I'll say about this anime, guys, is I am interested in it. It's interesting. I think there's some faults in it. It just could have been better. I think this is about a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. It's not my favorite of the fall, definitely, but it's still interesting enough, and I think it's still worth a watch, and it's still worth your time if you have time, because fall is pretty stacked. Overall, let me know what your guys' thoughts are of this episode. If you guys missed our reaction, click this video right here. That one will take you to our reaction of this episode. And the one right below it, if it's your first time here, that's going to tell you what 10 anime I'm covering for the fall. All right, guys, I'll see you guys next week for episode number 2. Peace out.